Tori Amos's new album, and he was crying about it. Of course, I had to check it out, and I listened to it, and I was very moved by Tori Amos. And it just made me think at that moment what a miracle it is that any art or music ever gets made or produced in the culture and the environment that we're living in right now. This environment of distraction, of dopamine addiction. In 1989, when there was no internet, I could spend entire days, like from morning until I would go to bed, just basking in a bath of music and piano and guitar, and I would just stay in that period. There were no achievements that I had to go out and do. There were no things I had to check off my list. There were, but not like now. When I hear great music, like it takes so much effort now to turn off the dopamine addiction of the phones, of all the things that I have to do. And I know that my life is much simpler than most people's. I'm essentially so grateful that I'm as free as I am. But I think, like, I went to Santa Fe. It took going to Santa Fe and a friend on the edge of death for me to write in that deep way that I used to write when I was in my early 20s and the late 80s and the early 90s. I wrote this piece of music for Brian Carter, who has passed, and it's still 90% done, but it's the first piece that I've written with that kind of level of commitment, that level of going deep, taking my time, sitting with the notes. I heard that Tori Amos and I thought, Will, you need to finish that piece. And I just, again, the miracle of anything ever being created ever, that when you hear a piece of music that really moves you, just realize it's a freaking miracle that it came into being in the first place, because the level of push, the level of putting off other things that are calling at you, other people, other relationships that are important, it's Herculean. One of my favorite artists gets up at 4 a.m. in the morning. It's been his routine he says, for 50 years. And he does all his creation between 4 a.m. and when his kids wake up and his family wakes up at 8. So he gets 4 hours in. And I'm thinking that may be the only way. Unless you have agents. I mean, this artist I'm speaking of has agents and people that work for him. He's still, I'm just beginning to think that that's what it takes. And what a joy it is when you do create that work. It's the best feeling in the world. And getting to play for a large audience at Old Settlers Music Festival and playing music that I'd written. I just wrote one extra piece. And the joy of getting to hear that and the immediacy, it's the best high ever. And then getting to play that in front of 500 or so people and with people that I love, it's really a great high. It doesn't go away, and you want to do it more. And it doesn't even matter what you get paid. So I'm excited that I'm orienting my life toward being able to do more of those things, and it's really exciting. But again, it's a freaking miracle any great moving art or music ever happens, because there's so many things that will distract that artist. Why do I have these in? So when you listen to Miles Davis, take this out. Kind of Blue, just think about that. It doesn't just fall out of our brains. It doesn't just fall out of our hearts. Maybe sometimes it does, but to get to that point, it's like the Picasso story when somebody asked Picasso to sketch him something. He sketched something that took like 15 seconds, and the person said, well, how much do you pay for that? How much should I pay for that? Picasso said, 150,000. I said it took him a lifetime to get to the point where he could sketch something 15 seconds. Yeah. Everybody have a great night. I don't really make these videos anymore because people don't really respond. And I don't know if it's the best use of my time, but this is fun because then I can look back. It's more like a journal entry. Hope to see many of you at shows, stringsattached.org. Got one tomorrow with Leanne Atherton. It's going to be so much fun. Thanks for the one person that's watching this right now. It's great. So I have a feeling that I'm talking to somebody.